And if that is the case, let us fish out the people. They say they are Fulani herdsmen, but they are not Nigerian Fulani herdsmen. Well, let us get somebody on Channels TV and parade them and say, well, where are you from? We have not had any kind of clarity on this issue. So there's one, there's impotence. Two, there's lack of moral, there's impotence. Two, there's moral ambiguity in this matter, because you have not come out to say that this is what you are going to do. You cannot have peace unless there's clarity.
And we're still living in denial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The matter should be taken care of. There are human beings there. It's unacceptable. It creates a credibility problem for the government.
Because I think staying on the Southern Kaduna crisis, it is one issue, because when everyone, you and I and many other Nigerians were, in festive mood, we understand that area was in total gloom, terror and fear. Yeah. And we can't be, merry when one other part of the country is still in a scary situation. So as it is now, this year, we're trying to look at what efforts that the government has done so far, because you just raised an important one. Even with the presence of military and security there, the people still get killed. What more do you hope to see from the government now, the government at the center?
We need to see a sense of clarity, a sense of seriousness and organization. And when you do that, communicate with the people in the process. It's not that complicated. It's not rocket science. Communicate with people in the course of when you do that. When you do that, people will now say, okay, yes, I know that there's tragedy, there's pain. This is how far you've gone. This is how far we are going to go.
Let me bring in Mark. Yeah. Mark.
I'm just wondering, do you have hope for 2017? Are you hopeful that things will be different in 2017?
I'm a naturally optimistic person, so I have hope. I'm not saying that the government cannot do well, but the government doesn't have too much time on its hands. I can do well as a good team, as I said. The personality of the president in terms of his moral stature is something that has persuaded many people. Up to now, still persuades many people. But you cannot have that and not put them into action. And so it's still in control of the affairs. They're still telling the story so far in the country. But they have like 6 months. After 6 months, the narrative may get out of their control, because governors who mix with politics, people will be talking about the next round of election and so on. It's just like when you are writing a story, or what novelists, when novelists talk about their muse, and that when you are writing a novel, you are in control of it. After a particular stage, the story takes on its own life, and they can't control it. As D.H. Lawrence said, he said, trust the tale, don't trust the teller. So at this particular stage, the tale will take on its own path, and the teller will just watch. You are writing your novel, but you are surprised by what you are writing as any other person who will read it, because it has taken those consequences. So you have to control the narrative of your government now, and take things. You can change things in a short while before it careens out of your hands, and you can still do it.
It's interesting you say that you have hope, because when you look at the major criticism, you say, oh, the president has some, brilliant members of his team, but then there's a problem with the coach. At the same time, you say, well, the president's integrity is still intact, but still it doesn't quite add up when you force him on one hand and you don't force him on the other. How do we reconcile the two? It is left for him to reconcile them, because he's capable of reconciling them. If you have great character, then you have to put that character into use. If you don't put it into use, it gets out of control. You can't be the father of the house and have the money and have the authority
And when you sit down and the children and the wife and the extended family get out of control, you can't expect things to change unless you assert that authority, you bring the money out, and you start telling them what to do. Things change immediately. So it's a contradiction that exists, but it's a contradiction that can be contradicted.
Mr. Omatseye, are you in a way saying the government needs to put aside politicking and focus on governance?
Well, politicking and governance, there is usually a fine line between them. You can do great politics and do great governance at the same time. In fact, doing great politics and doing great governance at the same time is the hallmark of a great vision.
But in the system where we are, where the party lines are sometimes so blurred, or they're so vivid that they, to a large extent, hinder development and good governance.
Yes.
How would that work?
That's by communication.
Communicate
at every stage of governance, at every phase of policy. You try to explain and demonstrate the meeting point between what governance you are doing and what politics you are playing. And when you do that, you are home free.
You've listened to the report we played earlier about where Nigerians were talking about their expectations in 2017.
Yes.
How would that play out? How would that work? Or how should the government handle these expectations? Because they are quite enormous, and those are just a few of them.
Yes, their expectations are many. The education, for instance, we don't have a great educational policy. We don't have a great the agricultural policy is rather here or there. There's a sense that they want to do something on agriculture, which is commendable, but we're still waiting. That, for instance, silos. Silos are everywhere. We have a lot of... the problem with agriculture in this country is not so much that we don't have agricultural produce. We don't know how to take it from farm to market. That is the problem, because many of them lie waste. So it has to come with communicating and also making sure that you have something to communicate. Get the policies right.
You know, it comes back to what you highlighted earlier on: urgency, vision, speed. All of this put together shows the way to go for a nation, especially in recession.
Yes.
We really must address that urgency. Apart from talking about it here on the program, what more will be that push that the government will need that will make them move with that speed? Because it is of the essence, as you did highlight.
They have to look inward. We have at the moment a very quiet society, still stunned by the inability of government to really deliver. They're in a state of expectation, but also paralysis. So the government has to understand